The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council pulsed with tension as representatives from dozens of species gathered, their unique forms sitting in a semicircle that framed the room's center. Some of these representatives were humanoid, while others defied any terrestrial notion of biology, with tentacles, scales, or flickering tendrils of energy. The chamber itself was a spectacle, lit by the soft glow of an expansive star map that floated above the central podium, projecting holographic images of planets and systems under the Council's protection. Tonight, however, the image of Earth loomed in the middle of the display, flickering ominously as the future of humanity was debated. At the forefront of the assembly, Zither, a tall serpentine being from the planet Exile, raised one of his slender arms. The light caught on his silver scales, casting an eerie glow across his figure as he stood to address the council. His voice, a deep resonant sound that echoed throughout the hall like distant thunder, broke the silence. Humanity has become a destabilizing force, Zither declared, his words cutting through the ambient hum of the chamber. Their history is filled with war and strife, and their reckless technological advancements threaten the harmony we have worked so hard to maintain. A murmur swept through the council members, some nodding in agreement while others remained silent. Across the chamber, a small group of human delegates felt the weight of Zither's words pressed down on them. Commander Alara Brooks, a seasoned military officer and one of humanity's strongest advocates within the council, clenched her jaw. She exchanged glances with the other human representatives, her gaze landing briefly on Dr. Amir Patel, a brilliant scientist whose contributions to interstellar technology had been hailed as groundbreaking. Yet here they were, their backs against the wall, facing the growing disdain of the Galactic Council. Alara's mind raced as she listened to the mounting criticisms, her heart heavy with the knowledge that humanity was on the brink of a political disaster. Despite her years of service, her dedication to fostering peace and alliances among the stars, it seemed that none of it mattered now. The Council had grown increasingly wary of Earth, seeing humanity's rapid advancements in technology as a threat rather than a benefit. Dr. Patel rose from his seat, his eyes burning with frustration. Humanity has achieved remarkable technological progress, he argued, his voice steady but impassioned. We have brought innovation and creativity to the galaxy. Exiling us now would be a grave mistake. But his words were drowned out by a rising chorus of objections. The tension in the room thickened as more council members voiced their concerns. It became painfully clear that the tide had turned against the humans. One by one, the votes were cast, and with each tally, the fate of humanity seemed to slip further out of reach. The final results flashed across the chamber's display, an overwhelming majority in favor of exile. Humans shall be exiled from the Galactic Council, the speaker announced solemnly. Effective immediately, all trade and communication with Earth are severed. Alara felt a wave of despair wash over her. She had given everything to the cause of galactic unity, only to watch as humanity was cast out, labeled as a danger to the galaxy. The other human delegates looked equally devastated. Dr. Patel slumped back into his chair, his face pale with disbelief. As they were escorted from the chamber, Alara couldn't help but feel the weight of their new reality sinking in. The future looked bleak. Days turned into weeks as humanity faced the devastating consequences of the Council's decision. On Earth, chaos erupted. The global economy, which had become increasingly dependent on trade with other planets, collapsed almost overnight. Stock markets crashed, resources grew scarce, and society teetered on the edge of collapse. News channels were filled with reports of riots, protests, and growing unrest. The people of Earth were in shock, their future suddenly uncertain. But in the midst of the turmoil, a flicker of determination began to take hold in the hearts of a select few. In a hidden underground facility, far from the public eye, a group of engineers, scientists, and military veterans gathered. Their goal was clear: to find a way to reverse humanity's fate and reclaim their place among the stars. Commander Alara Brooks, now back on Earth, had taken charge of this covert operation. Her strategic mind was racing with possibilities. "We need a warship," she declared during one of their first meetings, her tone resolute. "Something that can defend us. Something that can prove we belong in the galaxy." Among the group was Mia Chun, a brilliant engineer known for her innovative designs and unparalleled knowledge of propulsion systems. She had been working on a prototype for months, even before the Exile. "I've got something," Mia said, pulling up a holographic blueprint of a sleek, formidable ship. "It's not finished, but we can build a ship that combines our best military technology with something the Council's never seen before. If we can pull this off, we'll be ready for anything." Ilara studied the blueprint, her mind already formulating plans. "We don't just need to defend ourselves. We need to show the galaxy who we really are. We need to unite our strengths." The crew worked day and night, transforming the underground facility into a makeshift shipyard. It was grueling work. They faced countless setbacks, resource shortages, technical failures, and growing doubts about their mission. But with each challenge, they grew stronger. The shared goal of survival and redemption forged an unbreakable bond among them. Camaraderie blossomed amid the chaos. Late at night, during long shifts, they shared stories, revealing the human side of their struggle. Mia confided in Ilara about the family she had lost in a civil conflict years earlier, a loss that had ignited her fierce determination to protect others. Their shared grief fueled their resolve to see the mission through. Tensions, however, were inevitable. Two of the key figures on the team, Captain Jonas Reed, a battle-hardened veteran, and Leela Ruin, a brilliant but headstrong tactical officer, often clashed. Their differing approaches to the mission created friction during critical strategy meetings. Jonas, cautious from years of military service, urged for a careful, tactical approach. "I've seen what happens when you underestimate an enemy," he warned one day, his voice sharp with frustration. "We can't just throw ourselves into battle blindly. We need to be prepared." Leela, fiery and impulsive, shot back. "And what do you suggest, Captain? Waiting around until the Council sends another fleet to crush us? We need to take the fight to them. Show them what humanity is capable of." Ilara stepped in before the argument could escalate further. "Both of you make valid points," she said calmly, her tone firm but measured. "We need to be prepared for any eventuality, but we also need to act decisively. A balanced approach is key." As the weeks passed, the ship began to take shape. It was a marvel of human ingenuity, combining cutting-edge military technology with innovative propulsion systems that could outpace anything the Council had. The crew named it the Resolute, a symbol of their determination to rise above their exile and reclaim their place in the galaxy. During the final stages of the ship's assembly, Mia made an unexpected discovery. While integrating the ship systems, she uncovered an ancient AI interface buried deep within the ship's core. Activating it sent a soft hum of energy through the facility. The AI introduced itself as Aegis, its calm, authoritative voice filling the room. "Greetings, human operators," it said. "I am Aegis. I possess extensive knowledge of advanced combat tactics and strategic simulations." Ilara felt a surge of excitement. This was the breakthrough they needed. "This changes everything," she said, her voice barely a whisper. With Aegis guiding them, they weren't just building a warship. They were building a force to be reckoned with. As the launch day for the Resolute approached, anticipation buzzed through the facility. The crew knew the stakes were high, but with Aegis's advanced knowledge and their own hard work, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They were no longer just exiled. They were a force with a mission, ready to carve out their own destiny. The day of the first launch arrived in a flurry of activity. The facility buzzed with energy as the final preparations were made. The crew gathered around the ship, their nerves on edge but their hearts filled with hope. Ilara stood at the helm of the Resolute, her heart pounding as the engines roared to life. "Status report," she barked, her voice cutting through the noise of the control room. "Warp drive is online and ready for ignition," Mia called out, her fingers flying over the console. "All systems are green, Commander." "Stay sharp," Jonas warned from his station at Tactical. The Council's patrols are relentless. If they find us, they won't, Ilara cut in, her gaze steady. We're ready. With a final nod, she gave the order. Aegis, plot a course to the Tur colony. The AI's voice responded smoothly. Course set. Estimated travel time, 3 minutes. As the stars outside blurred into streaks of light, Ilara felt the weight of their mission settle over her once more. This was it. The beginning of their fight to reclaim humanity's place in the galaxy. They were no longer just survivors of exile. They were warriors on the path to redemption. The atmosphere aboard the Asterius Resolute was electric with anticipation. After successfully defending the Tur colony, the crew felt a renewed sense of purpose, but they were far from secure. Their next mission loomed. A strike against a Park stronghold. This would not be a simple skirmish, but a pivotal moment to show the galaxy that humanity, even in exile, was a force to be reckoned with. Commander Ilara Brooks stood in front of the massive star map in the war room, her gaze steady but her mind racing. The crew had rallied behind her leadership, and the victory at Tur had given them confidence. But this new mission carried higher stakes. The Parks were not just another hostile fleet. They were a highly organized military power, with deep connections to the Galactic Council. Striking them would send a message, but it could also spark retaliation, putting the entire mission at risk. Ilara tapped the console, pulling up detailed schematics of the Park stronghold. It was a fortress in space, with layered defenses and patrols. The star map showed the surrounding area lit with the faint, ominous glow of potential threats. It was here, in the depths of uncharted space, that their future would be decided. Could they really hope to take down such a formidable enemy? Aegis, status report on the Park's defenses, Ilara said, her voice calm but filled with an underlying tension. The AI's familiar, steady voice responded. Commander, I've completed a thorough analysis. The Park stronghold is heavily fortified, but there is a vulnerability in their shield alignment during their guard shift changes. This creates a window of approximately 17 minutes where their defenses are compromised. During that time, we can breach their outer shields if we act quickly and precisely. Ilara's mind raced as she weighed the risks and rewards. This mission was bold, maybe even reckless, but it was the only shot they had to strike before the Parks could regroup and retaliate. They needed to exploit that vulnerability, or they risked being trapped in a prolonged siege with no way out. Understood. Prepare a tactical briefing for the crew, Ilara said, her eyes narrowing as she looked at the holographic display. I want everyone to know their roles before we engage. We cannot afford mistakes. As the crew gathered in the briefing room, the excitement was palpable. They had been through a lot together, surviving exile, building a warship in secret, and now, standing on the brink of a major offensive against one of the galaxy's most feared military powers. But there was also anxiety, a quiet tension that lingered under the surface. Each crew member knew what was at stake. Ilara stood at the head of the room, her presence commanding but approachable. The faces around her, Mia Chun, the ship's brilliant engineer, Jonas Reed, the battle-hardened tactical officer, and Leela Run, their hot-headed but fiercely loyal strategist, reflected a mixture of determination and fear. We've come a long way, Ilara began, her voice strong and unwavering. What we did at Tur was remarkable, but it was just the beginning. The Park stronghold is our next target, and it's no small feat this mission will be dangerous. The Parks won't be as easily defeated as the fleet we faced before. But if we succeed, we'll not only cripple one of their key operations, but we'll also show the galaxy that humanity is far from beaten. The star map in the center of the room shifted, zooming in on the Park stronghold. The dark silhouette of the fortress floated against the backdrop of stars, surrounded by patrol routes and defensive stations. Aegis has identified a weakness in their shield system during their shift change, Ilara explained, motioning to the display. This is our window of opportunity. It's short, just 17 minutes. If we hit them hard and fast, we can breach their defenses and take control of the facility. But if we miss that window, we'll be facing a full-scale retaliation, and we can't afford that. Jonas, who had been quietly analyzing the schematics, spoke up. "Commander, their patrols are tight, but if we time our approach just right, we can slip through without triggering their long-range sensors. It'll be risky, but it's doable." Leela leaned forward, her eyes flashing with intensity. "We hit them fast, strike at their command center, and take out their leadership. Cut off the head, and the rest will fall. We've already proven we can take on their warships. This time, we show them we mean business." Ilara nodded, appreciating the fire in Leela's eyes, but she knew they had to balance aggression with caution. Jonas is right. Timing is everything. We can't just charge in blind. Aegis will guide us through the initial breach. But once we're inside, we'll need to be flexible. The Parks aren't going to roll over and let us take their stronghold. The room fell silent as the gravity of the mission sank in. Each crew member understood their role, but there was still an underlying tension. Ilara sensed it, and she knew she had to address it head-on. We've faced challenges before, and we've come out stronger because of it. But we also need to remember that we're a team. We can't afford any divisions or doubts. If we don't trust each other completely, this mission will fail. Her words hung in the air, and she could feel the weight of them settling on the crew. Jonas and Leela exchanged a glance, their earlier disagreements still fresh in their minds. But Ilara had faith in them. She had to. They were her family now, bound by the same goal, to prove humanity's worth in a galaxy that had cast them aside. Mia, who had been quietly observing from the side, finally spoke. "Commander, I've made some final adjustments to the warp drive. If things get too hot, we'll be able to pull out faster than they can track us. But we shouldn't rely on it. We need to be decisive." "Agreed," Ilara said. "There's no room for hesitation. Once we're in, we finish what we started." The briefing ended, and the crew dispersed to their stations, each preparing for the battle ahead. Ilara lingered in the war room, her eyes fixed on the star map. She had given countless briefings before, led troops into battle, but this was different. This wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming their place in the galaxy. Hours later, the Asterius Resolute approached the Park's stronghold, its sleek form blending into the vastness of space. The ship's engines hummed quietly as it drifted toward the enemy, guided by Aegis's precise calculations. Ilara stood on the bridge, her heart pounding with anticipation. "Aegis, status on the patrols?" Ilara asked, her eyes locked on the view screen. "Their patrol routes remain consistent, Commander. We are within optimal range to initiate the breach. Mia, prepare the weapon systems. Jonas, get us into position. Leela, stand by for the attack." The ship moved into place, slipping between the gaps in the Parks' patrols. The stronghold loomed ahead, a massive structure with thick layers of shielding and gun emplacements. It was an imposing sight, but Ilara's crew was ready. "Aegis, initiate the shield breach protocol," Ilara commanded, her voice steady. The ship's energy system surged, and a pulse of concentrated energy shot out toward the stronghold, disrupting the outer shields. The window of opportunity was open, but it wouldn't last long. "Shields are down! We're in!" Mia shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. "All weapons fire," Ilara ordered. The Asterius Resolute unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, tearing into the Park's defenses. Explosions rocked the enemy's stronghold, and alarms blared across their comms channels. "Enemy ships incoming," Jonas called out as Park's reinforcements scrambled to intercept them. "Stay on target," Ilara replied. "We need to take out their command center before they can regroup." The ship weaved through the chaos, dodging enemy fire as it closed in on the heart of the stronghold. Aegis guided them with precision, calculating every move, every angle. "Leela, take out their command ships." "Jonas, focus on the defense turrets," Ilara barked, her eyes fixed on the battle unfolding before her. One by one, the Park's ships fell under the onslaught of the Asterius Resolute's firepower. But the fight was far from over. More reinforcements were on the way, and the stronghold's internal defenses were still operational. "Commander, we need to act fast. Their reinforcements are closing in," Mia warned, her voice tense. "Aegis, target the stronghold's central power core," Ilara ordered. "If we can disable it, we'll cripple their entire operation." "Target locked," Aegis responded. Firing in 3, 2, 1. A massive explosion rippled through the stronghold as the power core was hit, sending shockwaves through the structure. The lights flickered and the enemy ships faltered as their systems began to fail. "Direct hit. Their defenses are down," Leela shouted triumphantly. Ilara allowed herself a moment of relief. They had done it. The Park's stronghold was falling, and with it, the Park's grip on this region of space. "All ships retreat," came the frantic voice of a Park's commander over the comm. The hangar bay of the Park's stronghold erupted into chaos, a far cry from the calculated precision with which the Resolute had infiltrated their defenses. Alarm sirens wailed through the cavernous chamber, their high-pitched cries bouncing off the cold, metallic walls. Red emergency lights blinked in harsh rhythm, casting eerie shadows on the various parked vessels and equipment scattered around the bay. A mix of smoke from minor explosions and the ozone tang of energy weapons filled the air, thick with tension. The Resolute crew surged forward from their ship, weapons drawn and senses on high alert, knowing this moment could define the future of their rebellion. Ilara moved with determination, leading the charge at the front of her team, flanked by her two most trusted officers, Jonas and Leela. The three had been through thick and thin together, but this was unlike any mission they had faced before. The stakes were astronomical, and the burden of leadership weighed heavily on her shoulders. She clenched her jaw, feeling the pull of every decision she had made, every life she now held in her hands. Their mission wasn't just to disrupt Park's operations, but to send a clear message. Humanity would not be a forgotten relic of galactic history. "Stay sharp," Ilara commanded, her voice steady but intense. The crew responded with a chorus of affirmations, their footsteps echoing in unison as they fanned out across the hangar floor. "Secure the hangar and block all escape routes. We can't let any Park's reinforcements slip away to warn their fleet." Jonas scanned the hangar's perimeter, his sharp eyes tracking movement in the dim light. He held his rifle ready, every muscle in his body coiled with tension. "I see a few Park's personnel moving toward the northern door. If they get through, they could alert the rest of their forces. We need to cut them off. Leela, get into position on that upper catwalk," Ilara ordered, pointing to a metal platform that spanned the length of the hangar's east side. "We'll need overwatch in case they try to escape through the secondary exits." Leela, always agile and quick on her feet, nodded without hesitation and sprinted toward a ladder leading to the upper levels. Her lithe form moved like a shadow through the flickering lights, rifle slung across her back as she climbed swiftly to her vantage point. "Mia, what's the situation?" Ilara called over her shoulder. The ship systems officer, ever cool-headed under pressure, was scanning the hangar's internal sensors on her portable display unit, trying to keep tabs on enemy movements. "There are several Park ships parked here, mostly small fighters," Mia replied, her eyes darting over the readouts. "But most of the enemy forces seem to be heading toward the upper levels, probably trying to regroup. If they manage to reinforce their position, this place will turn into a death trap." Ilara grimaced, realizing they were running out of time. "We need to intercept them before they organize a counterattack," she said, her mind racing through the possible strategies. The Park's stronghold was vast and sprawling, built into an asteroid and fortified with layer upon layer of defenses. It wasn't just about brute force here. They had to outthink the enemy. "Jonas," Ilara turned to him, her expression sharp with focus. "Take a team and lock down the hangar's main doors. We need to make sure no one gets in or out without our say-so." Jonas nodded and signaled to a group of crew members to follow him. Together, they moved quickly toward the hangar's main access points. Ilara watched them go, her gut twisting with anticipation. She knew Jonas could handle it, but the sheer scale of the mission weighed on her heavily. They were in deep now, and failure wasn't an option. Meanwhile, Mia was already hacking into the hangar's security systems, her fingers flying across the interface as she tried to wrest control from the park's operators. "I'm getting access to their internal cameras now," she reported, her voice clipped with concentration. "Looks like the parks are pulling most of their forces toward the command center, but we've got some stragglers in the lower levels." Elara cursed under her breath. "Of course they're fortifying the command center," she muttered. "They know that's the heart of their operation. If we take it out, the rest of the stronghold will fall like a house of cards." "Makes sense," Mia agreed, "but it's going to be heavily guarded. We'll need to get creative if we want to break through." Elara felt the surge of adrenaline that always accompanied high-stakes situations like this. There was no turning back now. "We don't have time for subtlety. We go in hard and fast. If we can take out their command center, the rest of their forces will crumble." Leela's voice crackled over the comms. "I'm in position on the catwalk. I've got a visual on a few parks trying to slip out the side door. Should I engage?" "Do it," Elara replied, her tone leaving no room for doubt. "We can't let any of them escape to warn the others. Take them down." A few sharp bursts of energy fire echoed from above as Leela neutralized the fleeing park soldiers. Elara felt a surge of pride. Her crew was functioning like a well-oiled machine, each member playing their role with precision and skill. With Jonas and his team securing the main exits and Leela holding Overwatch, Elara turned her attention to the heart of their mission, the command center. "Mia, I need you to locate the most efficient route to the command center. If we can hit it hard and fast, we'll have the element of surprise on our side." Mia's fingers flew over her device again, and a map of the stronghold's interior appeared on her screen. "There's a maintenance corridor that leads directly to the command center," she said, pointing to the display. "It's narrow, but it'll bypass most of their defenses. We can hit them from the side while they're focused on the front entrance." Elara nodded, formulating a plan in her head. "Perfect. We'll split into 2 teams. I'll lead the main assault on the command center, and Jonas can take a second team through the maintenance corridor to flank them. Leela, you'll provide cover from above. Mia, I need you to stay here and monitor the situation. Keep us updated on any enemy movements." Everyone fell into their roles without hesitation. The tension in the air was thick, but beneath it was a steely determination. This was what they had trained for, and each of them knew that failure wasn't an option. "All right, let's move," Elara ordered, leading her team toward the maintenance corridor. The metal floors clanged beneath their boots as they moved swiftly, weapons at the ready. The further they went, the darker and more oppressive the corridors became. The park's stronghold was a fortress of shadow, and Elara could feel the weight of the enemy all around them. As they neared the command center, the sounds of battle grew louder. The parks were preparing for a fight, and it was clear they were ready to defend their stronghold to the death. Elara's heart pounded in her chest, her fingers tightening on the grip of her blaster. "Jonas, you in position?" Elara whispered into her comms as they approached the command center's outer perimeter. "Just about," Jonas replied. "We're moving into the corridor now. Should be in position to flank them in about 30 seconds. Elara nodded, her mind racing with the possibilities. They were so close now, but the parks weren't going to give up without a fight. She could feel the energy crackling in the air, the tension rising as they prepared for the assault. "On my mark," Elara whispered into her comms. 3, 2, 1, now!" With that, the resolute crew stormed into the command center, weapons blazing. The park soldiers inside scrambled to respond, but they were caught off guard by the sudden assault. Elara moved with precision, taking down enemies with swift, calculated shots. Her team followed her lead, laying down cover fire as they pushed deeper into the room. Jonas's team burst in from the opposite side, flanking the park's forces just as they had planned. The parks, already disoriented by the initial attack, were now trapped between 2 firing lines. The fight was fierce, but the crew of the Resolute had the upper hand. Energy blasts filled the air, lighting up the room with flashes of bright blue and red. The sound of metal clashing and energy shields crackling echoed in the enclosed space. Despite the intensity of the battle, Ilara felt an eerie calm settle over her. This was what she was born to do. This was her element. "Keep pushing," Ilara shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "We're almost there." The crew rallied around her, their determination unwavering. As the last of the park's soldiers fell, Ilara took a deep breath, scanning the room for any remaining threats. The command center was theirs. "Mia, we've secured the command center," Ilara said into her comms. "Shut down all external communications. We can't let them call for reinforcements." "Already on it," Mia replied, her voice tinged with relief. "The parks are completely cut off." Ilara allowed herself a moment of triumph as the weight of the battle lifted. The resolute crew advanced with precision, moving through the stronghold like a well-oiled machine, their cohesion a testament to their training and trust in one another. Every step forward came with the weight of determination and desperation. They had come too far to fail now. The halls of the park's stronghold were dimly lit, each shadow seeming to conceal lurking dangers, but the crew moved with calculated precision, outmaneuvering their enemies. The muffled sounds of distant combat echoed through the corridors, blending with the pulse of the ship's power systems. For the Resolute's crew, this was more than just another mission. It was a fight for their very survival and the future of humanity. Leela took point, her pulse racing as they encountered the first wave of park soldiers. With a steady hand, she fired at the advancing troops, shouting over the noise, "We can't let them regain control." The park soldiers, clad in their imposing armor, moved with military discipline, but they were no match for the well-coordinated attacks of the Resolute team. Jonas covered the flank while Ilara, ever the capable leader, directed the crew with a calm that belied the intensity of the situation. Each step took them deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the stronghold. The air was heavy with tension, the dim lighting casting eerie shadows on the metallic walls. Every twist and turn in the passageways presented potential threats, but the crew advanced with determination. The sounds of blaster fire filled the air, punctuated by the occasional shout of a park soldier or the dull thud of bodies hitting the ground. The crew's training kicked in as they maneuvered through the halls, each of them knowing that the success of the mission, and possibly their lives, depended on their ability to work together. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of fighting, they reached a large command room at the heart of the stronghold. The door was slightly ajar, the faint hum of equipment buzzing from within. Ilara raised a hand, signaling the crew to halt. "Let's regroup," she said, her voice calm but laced with urgency. She turned to Mia, who was already positioning herself at the door's edge. "Can you access their systems from here?" Mia nodded, her fingers already moving over a portable interface she had linked to the command room's security systems. "I'm on it," she replied, her voice steady despite the tension that filled the room. Her fingers danced over the holographic display as it flickered to life, a cascade of data scrolling across the screen. "I can tap into their communications network and get us an update on their forces. Make it quick," Jonas muttered, his eyes scanning the corridor behind them for any sign of approaching reinforcements. "We've got to move fast. If they realize we're here, we'll be overrun." A few tense moments passed as Mia worked in silence, her eyes darting across the data streams. Then her eyes widened in alarm. "I've got it," she said. "They're planning a counterattack. Several squads are mobilizing from the upper levels. If we don't take out their command center soon, we're going to be fighting for our lives." Ilara's heart raced as the gravity of the situation hit her. They were running out of time. "Then we take the fight to them," she said, her voice filled with resolve. "We can't let them regroup." Without hesitation, the crew moved forward, following Mia's lead as they made their way toward the heart of the command center. The fighting intensified as they neared their destination, the park's forces growing more aggressive in their attempts to stop the human intruders. Blaster fire erupted in every direction, but the Resolute's crew held their ground, pushing through wave after wave of enemy soldiers. Suddenly, An alarm blared throughout the stronghold, the sound echoing through the narrow corridors. "They know we're here," Jonas shouted, adrenaline surging through his veins. "We need to hurry." Finally, they reached the command room's entrance, the door sliding open with a hiss to reveal a high-ranking parts commander flanked by a group of elite guards. The room was dimly lit, the glow from the various control panels casting long shadows across the floor. The parks commander was tall, imposing, and radiated an air of authority. His eyes narrowed as he took in the sight of the humans before him. "Humans," the commander growled, his voice dripping with disdain. "You will not take this stronghold." Ilara stepped forward, her gaze never leaving the commander's face. "We're here to end your tyranny," she said, her voice cold and unwavering. "Surrender now, and we may spare your lives." The commander let out a harsh, mocking laugh. "You think you can intimidate me? I will never bow to your kind." Without waiting for a response, he lunged at Ilara, his weapon raised. Time seemed to slow as Leela, ever quick on her feet, reacted. She fired a precise shot that hit the commander's weapon, sending it flying across the room. "Now!" Ilara shouted. Seizing the opportunity, the crew sprang into action, engaging the park's guards in a furious battle. The room exploded with blaster fire as the two sides clashed, the intense flashes of light casting erratic shadows across the walls. Ilara moved with purpose, her weapon raised as she fought her way through the chaos. Jonas was a whirlwind of precision, taking down enemies with a combination of skill and sheer force. Leela, too, fought fiercely, her eyes focused and her movements quick as she dodged incoming fire and returned shots with deadly accuracy. "We can't let them regroup," Jonas shouted over the noise, his voice barely audible above the din of combat. Mia, stationed near the control panels, continued to provide tactical support. Her eyes flicked between the live battlefield and the data she was pulling from the park systems. "Focus on the commander," she called out. "If we take him down, we can disrupt their chain of command." Ilara's heart pounded as she maneuvered through the melee, her focus narrowing on the commander. He was formidable, his strength and experience evident in the way he fought off her crew. But Ilara wasn't deterred. She charged forward, flanking the commander as he engaged Jonas in a vicious exchange. "You may think you're invincible," she hissed, "but this is for everyone you've oppressed." The commander swung his weapon at her, but she was too quick. She dodged the blow, landing a strike that sent him staggering backward. In that moment, she felt the power of her crew behind her, their unity, their determination. It was a force greater than any weapon, and it bolstered her resolve. With a final, decisive blow, Ilara knocked the commander to the ground. His weapon clattered across the floor, out of reach. She stood over him, breathing heavily. "It's over," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "You're finished." The remaining park's guards fell soon after, and the command room descended into silence. The crew, breathing heavily and covered in the grime of battle, stood together. Jonas looked around, disbelief washing over him as the reality of their victory sank in. "We did it," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We took the command center." Mia, still at the control terminal, smiled triumphantly. "Now let's make sure this stronghold is no longer a threat." Ilara nodded, but a weight pressed heavily on her chest. They had struck a decisive blow, but she knew that this was just one battle in a much larger war. The Council would not take this lightly. Their enemies would regroup, and retaliation would surely come. As Mia worked to hack into the park systems, Ilara turned to her crew, pride swelling within her. "We've shown them that humanity is not to be underestimated," she said. "Together, we will forge our own path. We are not exiles. We are pioneers." With that resolve, the crew prepared for what lay ahead. The park's stronghold was just the beginning. Beyond this victory lay a galaxy filled with challenges, but they would face them together, united, resilient, and unyielding. Mia's voice broke through Ilara's thoughts. "I'm in," she said, her fingers flying over the control panel. "I've accessed their communication network. We can send out a message to the Council, broadcast our victory to the galaxy." Ilara's heart raced at the thought of sending a message that could change everything. "Do it," she commanded. "Let them know humanity is no longer exiled or weak." As Mia prepared the transmission, Jonas stepped beside Ilara, wiping sweat from his brow. "What's next?" he asked. "We've made a significant strike, but we can't let our guard down. The Council will retaliate." Ilara nodded, her gaze hardening as she glanced around the wreckage of the command room. "First, we need to secure the stronghold, set up defenses, and ensure no one can reclaim it.